Right, welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. We've been reporting on the uprising in Iran recently, and we've been talking about the globalist push and the narrative since the 20th century. A lot of people have been worried about what's going on, obviously, and how it affects us in the West. There is a propaganda coming out of the Iranian regime saying, "Oh, it's the Americans and the Brits trying to get rid of us." That's obviously fake because in reality, the Islamic occupation in 1979 was installed by Jimmy Carter and CIA, and the Brits turned a blind eye. So it was basically the UK Labour government with James Callaghan and the US Democratic government under Jimmy Carter that did this. And the reality was that they would prefer to have a weak enemy in Iran, and they couldn't really control the Shah of Iran at the time. The Shah basically became an equal independent partner, and they didn't like it. This was the whole point. This video is about one of his last final interviews, the Shah of Iran, that he made. And the BBC and CNN, the biased BBC and biased CNN, were being sent to go to Iran to conduct these very weird interviews to catch him out and to basically say, the Shah of Iran, you become the devil, basically. But he was very good. He was educated. He was a very smart man. This interview is about showing the greed, saying, "Oh, the king of Iran, why do you have a palace?" He has a good comeback. Watch this.
Well, let me put it to you that Mr. Callaghan doesn't work in an office like yours. How do you respond to that?
Mr. Callaghan is the Prime Minister. I'm the King of Kings of a country which has 2,500 years of monarchy. But this cannot be also compared to Buckingham Palace.
I mean, that makes sense. Why are you comparing the head of state's palace or office to the head of government, prime minister's office? The BBC guy is like, well, I'm going to compare your office in your palace as a head of state of Iran to number 10 Downing Street, the flat, because that, even though that's the head of government. If you want to compare, as the Shah said, compare that to Buckingham Palace or Windsor Castle. That's a better comparison. But they knew exactly what they were doing. But the next bit that the Shah says is actually quite interesting.
In the old days, you, British, and others who had influence here, you could change the prime ministers as you wished. Are you sorry for that time that you have lost? Do you want the same thing? To manipulate our internal affairs? We won't let you.
And this is why they got rid of him. Even back then in the 20th century, ordinary people in the West, in Britain and in America, were against this globalist push. But back then we didn't have enough access to information or social media or internet to be able for our voices to be heard. So people just went along with whatever the head of governments and governments basically did. But that was not representative of what people here wanted. All the manipulations, all the infiltrations and interventions and everything else that happened in the 20th century, and even until now, you can see what's going on in certain parts. And I'm not going to name names or countries because you know what's going to happen to me on YouTube. It's all part of the game. It's all part of the globalist vested interest. But you can't say it. That's the problem. If you say it, you will be cancelled. But again, the reality is that we have to push back against their vested interest. And it's not just the weapon manufacturers. It's the intelligence community, and it's those with big money, big government, and big business corporations going hand in hand to keep their own interests protected. And that's the whole point. And they're going around there. This is a new version of imperialism that, obviously, the left are obsessed about that word. But the way the left talk about it is quite nonsensical because it's a very traditional way. But this is the new way. This is the world order. This is the World Economic Forum's dream of world order. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. I'm Tousi, and we are the media.